Here are the answers for the day 2 bell work. Question A, we need a 0.1 molar silver nitrate solution for a lab. How many moles of silver nitrate would need to be dissolved in 500 milliliters of water to make this solution? In high school chemistry, the unit of concentration that we use most often is molar. And molar refers to how many moles of solute are dissolved in 1 liter of a solution. So we want our volume measurement to be in liters, not in milliliters. And you see that conversion here. So when the problem said 500 milliliters, that is the same thing as 0.5 liters. Next, write the molarity formula. M equals N divided by V. M is molarity. N is the number of moles. And V is the volume in liters. Make substitutions into that formula. So in place of the capital M, fill in the 0.1. In place of the volume, put the 0.5 liters. And the unknown variable is N, the number of moles. To solve this equation, you can multiply both sides by 0.5, then the letter N will be alone. The answer is 0.05 moles. Question B, we used 750 milliliters of a 0.2 molar copper sulfate solution in one of our labs this year. How many grams of copper sulfate would need to be dissolved in water to make that solution? Again, when you are working with concentrations that are measured with molarity, the volumes need to be in liters, not milliliters. And so that conversion is shown here. 750 milliliters is the same thing as 0.75 liters. To change from milliliters into liters, you divide by 1,000. 750 divided by 1,000 is 0.75. We'll find this answer for number of grams in 2 steps. First, find the number of moles. Then, change from moles into grams. So in step 1, we've written the molarity formula, and then make substitutions. 0.2 in place of the capital M, and the 0.75 liters in place of the V. To solve this equation for N, multiply both sides by 0.75, and the result is 0.15 moles of copper sulfate. The question asks us for how many grams of copper sulfate. And in first semester of chemistry this year, we would make this conversion all the time, switching back and forth between moles and grams. This is when you'd look at the periodic table on the front wall to find out how heavy things are and use your dimensional analysis conversion technique. So in step 2, write down the 0.15 moles to get started, and then multiply and make a fraction line. Down in the bottom, we want to say 1 mole, so that these will cross out. And in the top, again, using the periodic table, we get the weight, 159.609. That is the weight of copper sulfate using the periodic chart. You look up how heavy copper is, look up how heavy sulfur is, and how heavy 4 oxygens are, and you add that up, and that's 159.609. On a calculator, the answer is 24 grams after you round it. Earlier this year, we did a lab that used a copper sulfate solution. In the back supply room, I have solid copper sulfate crystals, but what I don't have is I don't have solutions made up. So every time we would do a lab the night before, I had to make the solutions with the right concentration. And so in this case, if I wanted to have 750 milliliters of a 0.2 molar copper sulfate solution, what I would do is I'd take a beaker, I'd weigh out 24 grams of the copper sulfate crystals, dump them in the beaker, and then I would add enough water to bring it up to the 750 line on the beaker. Stir it up, and that's the solution that we would use the next day in the lab.